He's connecting in now.
Oh, good.
He's having a little difficulties, but if you'd like to start, he'll pop in very shortly.
Okay, Madam Mayor, it is, I can't even see, 9:06 and we are live.
Great. Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone, and welcome to the public to the October 12th.
That's right.
Thank you. A pre-agenda meeting for the city of Lake Worth. Can we have a roll call?
Yes, Mayor Betty Resch,
Here.
Vice Mayor Christopher McVoy,
Here.
Commissioner Sarah Maliga.
Here.
Commissioner Kimberly Stokes is absent and Commissioner Reynaldo Diaz just popped in.
All right. Yeah, there he is. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, so again, we have our pre-agenda meetings and they're sort of a loose forum, but sometimes I start with asking if there's any burning issue on anyone's mind that needs to be addressed. I don't hear any, and let's try to keep it so we can each have a time to speak. I heard something from Commissioner McVoy. I don't know if that was me imagining it or just
No, that was burps and whatnot, a little.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I just wanted to share that I continue to get calls from renters who are, in some cases, in tears with situations of landlords giving them 3 days notice to move out and things like that. I have something on the RFP, but that I will bring that up when Glenn is on at 9:30.
What are
The RFP for a study relating to housing prices.
which I have to tell you about that. I've been thinking a lot about that.
What,
And
why
you know,
don't-
we'll
because I'll bring it up when Glenn is on, because
well, it has nothing to do with the legal aspect of it. It has to do with
okay.
we're going to get a study that we know what we can do. I'm just putting the question out there. We don't need to debate it, but I just want to let you guys know. I am seriously thinking of, yeah, it's nice to have a study, but we're going to get a study that's going to say something, and what can we do about it? I mean, depending on how much of the study, we get studies for a lot of things. But I just don't know how practically useful that will be. I don't want to get into debate. I'm just saying that's a thought on my mind that I may bring, probably bring up at the meeting. I just don't know what, helpful information is interesting, but how can we help? So that's a doubt that I have in my mind about it. That's all.
Commissioner Diaz has his hand raised, Madam
Hi.
Mayor.
Good morning, Mr. Diaz.
Good morning. I mean, a quick response to that is because this is something I've been looking at, and affordability is certainly, at least the federal government's, very much one of their top priorities. And one thing that I've noticed is when you look at grants and different funding opportunities, even the ones that you would think have no relation to affordability, like one I've seen is DEP grants for like planting trees and habitat restoration, and even those grants have some sort of category or performance measure that will give you priority if you can prove that your community is either impoverished or a struggling neighborhood, or there's a lot of economic reasons that would kick you towards the top of a grant list if you can show to them that there's a community need.
Okay, so I guess, and I appreciate that. And
yeah.
so maybe the thing to do is just really narrowly define what we're looking, with that kind of thing in mind, define what we're looking for fairly specifically.
As I mentioned, I will address that very directly at 9:30 when Glenn's here. But yes,
Madam Mayor, Commissioner Maliga's hand is raised.
I can't, there you are. You've got to get brighter hands. Good morning. You're, yeah, there you go.
Thank you. Two things I wanted to bring up. So I've got an email as well. And when I when this lady reached out to me, the first thing I did was think legal aid, we paid them. That's what they're there for. And I went onto the website and noticed that we had no connections to any of our partners. So Ms. Davis was working on getting that resolved yesterday. And I sent her an email with the link and said, here's who you need to call and they will help you at no charge. And I think we really need to
Mhm.
do that. And when we get the phone calls, we can't solve those issues, but we've hired people who can. And, that's just, my opinion. That's the way I've been handling it, is giving them the advice of legal aid and saying, this will be no charge to you. You've got options, please call them. And I hear what Mr. Diaz is saying in regards to the studies. There are enough studies in this city to know that we're impoverished. The census shows that. That's why we get our CDBG funds, right? I don't think that this study would show any more of the economic than we already have proof of. Now, as far as the housing and the lack of, that might help. I'm still on the fence on this RFP. I keep reading through it, and I still haven't found out where this data came from that was thrown out there on how many, when there's a household of 4 people, how much the income is, or I still haven't gotten an answer on that. So I'd like to know where the data came from to craft this RFP and this potential ordinance. But I'm still on the fence. That's all I have on.
No, I feel, I'm not one way or the other. I'm just thinking about it.
It's literally sitting on my desk with highlights and scribble marks all over it. So I'm still pontificating.
Okay. Okay, so we'll talk more about it apparently when Glenn gets here, but again, legally, I don't think that's an issue. So anything else? I met with John Sprague and the boating club about mooring, trying to establish a mooring field. The first step's going to have to be, and I have to hear back from him about the cost and all that. I'm surprised I haven't heard back about. The first step would be a study to see if, in fact, where, if we could have a mooring field, where it would go. And they're looking at south of Bryant, south of the bridge down by Bryant Park, south of the boat ramp. So I just want us to keep in mind that might be a way that we can, by establishing a mooring field, that we can actually have some control over the boats that are with us. They register, they pay, they get sucked out once a week. We have it would involve having a contract with a boat that comes and sucks out the refuse, the toilet stuff. And they're working with West Palm and Riviera Beach now on mooring fields. So it's kind of a good time to be talking, because there's there might be some ability to cooperate with them on either pricing of things or like the pump out boat, things like that. So if we all think that's a good idea, I'll keep going with it. If anybody says, are we all okay with me going forward with that? Okay. I see 2, so I'm going to go with it.
Yeah.
That's 3 out of 5. Chris, you didn't say.
One thing I would love to add to that, or if you could inquire, is for Snook Islands, and I don't know the answer to this yet, and I've only very preliminary looked into this, but for Snook Islands, is there some sort of designation we can put that helps us protect it from anchorage, because there is seagrass there. I'm thinking, top of the level designation is state and national park, right? And then there's all these categories beneath it, like no take zones, which I would not advocate because I like fishing too much. But there's all these categories, and I'm curious if there's something that we can do as a city, or if we have to work with to put a designation on Snook Islands that might give us some no anchorage protection.
There's none now. That's not part of it now.
I don't think there is, and
Who
not
would
that
we,
people.
is it
not that
Who
people
would we talk to about this stuff?
Probably Deb Drum.
Right.
I would
Who?
start with her. Deb Drum from She's the director for Palm Beach County Environmental Resources Management.
Yeah.
And if not her, maybe Jason Andriata. He's the district director for DEP. Because I'm not sure if there is anything. I know, for example, Riviera Beach put protections on, or they reached out to someone to put protections on Phil Foster Park, the dive site, to make it a no-take zone. So I wonder if there's some sort of category that we could have that would at least protect that area.
That's a great idea. How did the boats disappear after the storm? Who took the boats off Snook Islands after It was instant. It was magical. And I see I'm asking Ms. Davis this question.
We just
a
thank
good
God
question.
that they disappeared. We don't ask questions.
No. I want to find out who did it because we call them the next time.
I really don't know, Mayor. It's just a miracle.
It was the weirdest thing. One day they were there and the next day they were gone. And I was so
I'm so glad, yes.
Yeah, because they were going to sit there for months. Another thing, this is kind of off the charts a little bit, but years ago at the north end of the beach, it's almost where the county meets the city and the ocean I'm talking about. There's a buoy out there. You can see it still there. It used to be a big buoy that kids would climb up and jump off of and stuff. And there was a rope from that buoy back to the beach, and it was securely anchored in the beach. And the purpose, the reason that I'm talking about this, the purpose that served was, it was hysterical, but it was very useful. It was the place where people that were unsure of their footing, older, it was like magpies on a telephone pole. It was like a meeting place. You could hold on to that rope and stand I can't go in the ocean. Anything's going to knock me over. But if I had a rope to hold on to, and this was there for years, and one day it was gone, and who knows why, right? But old people, now I'm one of them, would stand up there and hold on to the rope, and they had something to hold on to, and they could enjoy being in the ocean, but not have to fight the waves. And I'm wondering who has jurisdiction over the ocean. If we could see about doing something like that again, I'm telling you, it was really wonderful. Old people, my grandmother, my point of reference for Lake Worth would go, she was an old German from the ocean, and she would go out there every day in her, little old lady's bathing suit and hang on and talk to her friends while they hung on to that rope. And it was Lauren, I see your hand up. I'm going to stop
Good
talking.
morning.
Morning.
That buoy actually belongs to Palm Beach County. It's the boundary marker between our two beaches. So I can have my chief reach out to them and inquire about it, but it's not mine, so I can't act on it.
Okay, so your chief would be your chief.
Matt Botts, he's our chief of ocean rescue.
Okay, that's you. Yeah, does anybody object to that question being asked?
No.
Commissioners, anybody object to that?
No, but
Okay.
while we're at it, could we add in that conversation more accessibility? I mean, we have
Yeah.
those mats. We have,
Yeah.
I think we have at least one of the wheelchairs that can go in the water. I'm always open to see how much more of that can we do.
Yeah, I'd love to put my foot in the ocean. I could not at this point conceivably try that. So, so Lauren, maybe you could talk about accessibility, but don't forget about the rope, because people don't even know about it anymore. That would be
Just
great.
for clarification, are you asking me to talk to Palm Beach County about them getting mats as well?
No, I think our beach, if they want to buy them for us, that'd be great. If they want to put them down, wonderful. But I think we're talking about our beach.
Right, we have the Moby mats. Currently they're by Tower 3.
Right. Do they go all the way down to the water?
It depends on the tides and the slope of the
Oh,
sand.
of course. Right. Okay. And we do have one of those wheelchairs.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Well, if we could find out about more mobility at the beach, that would be great, because that rope was just wonderful.
Sure.
And that's just like a side. I do loop the beach at least once a day. Oh, and then on the beach, some of the sea grapes, like the way the beach was redone, it's lovely and everything, but you really, if you're a person like me that doesn't get out and walk and go down to the beach, you really can't, the sea grapes have gotten so high, especially on the south end by that little turnaround. You can't, you could drive up there and you can barely see the water. The best place that you can see the water, which is where I stop, is that north circle. You can pull over and watch kind of for a few minutes and see what the water looks like. But I'd like to see more visibility of the water at the beach, and just by trimming some of those sea grapes, we could do that. Miss Davis.
Thanks, Mayor. I don't want to stop the conversation. I'm a shift gear, so I just wanted to make my presence known. I want to talk about a subject matter, but if you still have more on this
Okay, no,
subject, I don't want to stop the flow.
Does anybody object if we just kind of trim some of those sea grapes so we can actually see the water? Those of us that can't leap out and enjoy it. Lauren?
Yes, so we've been working with some residents about how to properly prune the vegetation at the beach. So it's a battle of keeping the plant healthy and visibility. So I can get with the team and see if there's a way that we can trim them back a little bit so that we can have some more
Yeah.
visibility.
Yeah, because you really, I mean, if you drive past, it's almost like you can't barely see the water anymore. Thank you. Ms. Davis, I'm gonna mute myself so my stupid dogs don't interrupt.
Thank you. I just wanted to talk about while we wait for Glenn to pop in on some other subject matters. I want to talk about the commission's holiday schedule. So I know around Christmas time, it's been a practice to not have the last meeting in December. This year, the meeting is scheduled for December 20th. So do you want to make December 6th the last meeting for the year, or any other ideas?
I will be out of town from the 12th to the 22nd, celebrating my anniversary. So if we could make it on the 6th.
That's 2 weeks. And then that would be the only meeting in December?
Yes.
I mean, it's a lovely idea, but we've got so much to do. Can we afford to skip a meeting?
That was the same thought, that we tend to have very packed meetings. So I'd be a little reluctant to take one out.
I had
And-
recommended doing another one on Thursday, the 8th. Because we also have the city utility meeting on the 27th that we have to be mindful of, but usually Ed cancels that.
Right. And I know that a lot of the staff likes to take vacation times that allow the team to take vacation.
Yeah, the week between Christmas and New Year's won't work for people because that's when they want to take off. You're leaving, you're gonna be gone 2 weeks now? Sarah?
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, no, 10 days, not 2 weeks, 10 days.
Well, but
I leave on the 12th, so if I leave out on the 12th on the afternoon and I'm back on the morning of the 22nd.
okay, so that's 2 working weeks essentially, unless we had on the 23rd, which I don't think we're gonna entertain the thought. I mean,
Well, like I said, we could do one on a Thursday too. The 6th and the 8th, and get whatever needs to be done, so everybody can enjoy their
and
holiday.
can staff handle that? I don't know, I'm asking them.
Well,
that-
I'm looking at the calendar. If we do.
Or we can
um,
have, I mean, is anybody else gonna be around on the 20th?
I'll be here.
I'll be here. Ronaldo?
I'll be here.
I mean, we may just have to have a meeting without you, Sarah.
Or you
Well,
can,
Mayor, I was also taking the consideration of the staff as well
Well,
for
I mean,
December 20th.
but it's before,
Yeah.
it's like days before Christmas. I mean,
Well, because most people who leave town don't fly out on the 23rd or 24th.
Right, they leave
They like to have a
earlier
week
than,
off.
right.
So a week would be the 19th to the 27th, because Christmas is on the weekend as a holiday. It's on the weekend, I mean.
That's right. We're off on, I think, the 23rd. And so a lot of people travel there earlier in that week.
And aren't we
They wish
closed?
to travel.
And we're closed on the 26th, right? Because it's the day after Christmas.
I'm in town, so I'm not traveling, but I know my team, there are many people who like to travel out of town.
what
Just
about
want to take that into consideration.
yeah, I mean, I mean, with our packed agendas, I'm just hesitant to say we don't need a meeting because it's gonna jam up every other meeting. What if we did it like on the 15th or the 16th, the week?
Right, so we can schedule another meeting on the 15th, and we can also add in utility items.
Yeah, and the 15th is a Thursday, but,
Uh,
because the
Commission-
CRA is on the 13th.
Commissioner Malika, are you in town on the 15th? No, you're
No.
not in town on the 15th.
No,
I
but
mean,
depending on where I am, if I have to Zoom, I will, but I really don't want to. That's the whole point of unplugging. And
I know,
recharging.
but I mean, we have to have meetings.
I understand, but it's also a holiday, and staff is, if we have to be, cognizant and mindful that there's staff, we're gonna be getting through our Christmas tree lighting, and we've got the parade, and we've got,
Oh, but that doesn't,
go,
when
go,
is the
go.
parade? When
That's
is the
not-
parade?
The 10th, December 10th.
Right, okay, so that's before then. Well, I'd like to consider maybe having one that, either the Thursday the 14th or the 15th. How about if we do this, leave it at, let staff take a look at what's coming up. And
Yes.
then, you know, because I mean, our meetings are, midnight.
Right, which is why I
A
don't
little too much
zoom in for
chit-chat.
6.5 hours until midnight. But if we have a light one and I can, you know, depending on where I am,
Well, I mean, or you may miss one, Sarah.
no, that's fine. You just
Yeah.
asked, I'm giving you an
Yeah.
answer. But I
It's so,
this holiday on the books 4 months ago.
well, you know, you miss some meetings or you make an arrangement to zoom in. I just did that and it wasn't ideal and wasn't my preference, but,
And
Yeah,
that's a regularly scheduled meeting, so it wasn't a surprise.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, we'll figure it out, but I trust staff enough to let them decide whether we can skip a meeting or not.
Okay, we'll meet and make that determination and let you know.
Okay,
Madam
Thank you for
Mayor,
considering that.
yes,
the
ma'am.
city attorney is here now.
Hi, Glenn, welcome aboard.
Good morning, everyone.
good morning.
Morning. We're supposed to hear from you about the
Well,
RFP.
Vice Mayor McBoy had a
Yeah.
discussion item.
So, after our last meeting on Tuesday, I guess, Tuesday, seems like it was further away than that, but, I got the sense that as we looked at the RFP for housing crisis, that there were sort of some mixed feelings about it and some concern as to whether the focus that was shown in Exhibit A of that RFP, whether it would really help us out and how much of a chance we had to meet all the burdens of the state statute. And I think those are valid concerns. As I mentioned at the meeting, Glenn and I had talked about it, and I think he raised a lot of concerns that made sense to me also. However, at the same time, I think I sensed that there was interest in at least some on the committee, on the commission, that a concrete and quantitative as well as qualitative awareness of what our situation is would help us out. There were maybe some comments made that suggested it wasn't as big a problem. Let's not make that speculation. Let's figure it out. And so what I did was I went back to the Exhibit A from that RFP. I had some concerns when I read it before the meeting. I went back to it and tried to capture what I thought what would be useful to us as a commission to know about our city, and rewrote that Exhibit A and had tried to get it to Carmen in time to send out to everyone so they could look at it before this meeting. I wasn't quite able to get it all done. And then Glenn happened to talk to Carmen and indicate, whoa, no, don't send it out. That would be a sunshine violation, even if it's coming from the city manager. And I said, well, definitely don't send it out then. But whatever mechanism there is that is proper to share it with people, I would like to suggest that we use it as it's a first draft. It's a starting point and see whether it resonates with people, whether people, can make some improvements to it, whatever our procedure to get the best possible setup for the study. But oops, what's my phone? But I think there is some useful stuff. Carmen's suggestion was we could put it up on the screen and have a look at it. I don't know how practical that is to read it on the fly, but basically my thought was, let's get a qualitative as well as quantitative picture of all of the aspects that we can think of that relate to housing and income in our city, so that we're working with real data. As Commissioner Diaz mentioned, almost any grant or funding opportunities requires that you have some sort of study, some sort of data that you can point to. So it's kind of a starting point for anything else. And I think it's also useful for our own planning. I had suggested focusing on quantitative things as well as some qualitative. What is it that we're seeing going on in the community or other people are seeing? Because definitely when I get the calls, people are pretty desperate. And some of the things going on do not seem things that we as a commission would support as far as how renters are treated. And it's been pointed out that although renters may not contribute economically in quite the same way as somebody who owns a building, they in fact make sure that those buildings are not homesteaded. And so they help us with property taxes in the city, as the mayor pointed out. And they help in a lot of other ways. And they're people. And we care
Well, I
about.
mean, all right, I'm not gonna interrupt. I'll wait till you finish.
So I would like to suggest that we do revisit the RFP content, make sure that we feel that the focus would give us helpful stuff, and have some procedure that we can each edit it or add in input, or however we want to do that, and that's appropriate with the sunshine law. The other thing that I noticed before the meeting, I might have mentioned it then, is cities almost always do RFPs with consulting firms or engineering firms. That's just the nature of municipal government. In this case, I suspect that we should expand our range of folks that might do the study to include, certainly it's welcome to consulting firms, but also to universities. They will tend to be cheaper. They may tend to come at it from a bit different angle. And we should at least make sure that our RFP does not skew in its evaluation or in its requirements to make it harder for universities to apply. Keep the playing field level was the suggestion I would have in that. So there's some little, well, the evaluation criteria, they're definitely were skewed toward consulting firms. And we should just fix that.
Okay, I would like to find out from staff what, and from the CRA as well as just the commission's, our staff, what, if any, kinds of facts we have about this subject. Sarah mentioned the census.
Well,
Because
Madam Chair-
although it might be interesting to know, I still question, as a small municipality with a very limited budget, it's not rocket science. We have very underserved people in this town. We have landlords that are some landlords that are being abusive to those people. We have very little control and no control really over how high they can raise their rents. So, I mean, although I just, it'd be interesting to know, but where's the meat? What is the purpose of this? We'll have a study that says, you've got poor people in your town. Here we're below the poverty level. We have this many rentals. We have anecdotal stories of people having the rents raised to ridiculous amounts. We're not the US government. We're not the state government. I mean, sometimes I feel, I mean, as compassionate as we are and want to be, our scope is limited. And we've set aside money for housing. We're working with legal aid. I mean, what else can we do? That's a real question. What else can we do? We can't come up with $7 million or $70 million and build enough housing for everybody that needs a house or affordable housing in Lake Worth. So our scope of help is so limited. And if we have some of that information already, why repeat that? And I apologize for that. So that's my question. And I just, we're focusing so much on this and it's a terrible problem, but what can we really do? Is my question. And I'm going to mute now because of the stupid dogs. And I don't know if that's a rhetorical question or a question that we have. It's already 9:35. I don't know if we can solve that problem. Sarah, you have your hand up?
Yes, ma'am. So this isn't really directly related to the conversation, but I've just been thinking, how can we help and what can we do immediately? And I would like some consensus and support from the commission to put together a Thanksgiving Day turkey fundraiser giveaway. I've reached out to development, affiliated development who has the Bohemian, asked them if they would partner with myself and whatever commissioners or if the mayor wants to be involved. doing a Thanksgiving Day food giveaway in the Hatch parking lot. They're on board. I said, especially it's right across from the Bohemian. I'm just trying to think, there's a food crisis, there's a housing crisis, there's a gas crisis. Like, how can we be as effective now and not wait for studies and everything? So that's something that I'm working on, and anybody who wants to help, put it together, support it, fundraise, reach out to, to other partners. That's something that I'm trying to do immediately to help our struggling community, right? So I just wanted to throw that out there because it does piggyback on this. We can't solve all the issues like you just said, Mayor, but whatever we can solve. And that's really what my focus is on. So anybody who wants to support, please let me know. I would love all hands on deck if we could and show unity, right? As a board, can't fix everything, but we're here to help how we can, right?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
So I'll be working with Joan at the CRA. They did one 2 years ago with Element, who was trying to do the L&M project. So I'm just trying to put all the pieces together. If any of the other commissioners want to join in, let me know. Okay.
I'm happy. I think there's a couple of developers that I could call as well for help. Along the
Because really
same
they're
lines.
partners, right? They're partners on
Yeah,
this.
right.
The
right.
partner, right?
The other day was on Facebook that we have our Trojan High. I'm really into the high school for whatever reason. I love our high school. And there's a thing on Facebook about our team coming back on Thursday night and they need dinner when they come back from a game. And I stepped up, Greg Ricker stepped up, Kim Lingle, 2 new people that I had not met, but Tanya, and I can't remember her name, and Justin, I can't remember his name. And between I hope I'm not leaving anybody out, the 5 of us, we came up easily with $600. The kids are going to get L-Dub subs and pizza and snacks and stuff. And we're all going to be there at 9:15 at night serving them. So
And you support a small business. So it's a win-win.
exactly. So, I mean, that's the kind of thing. And I agree with, on the globe, we can't fix the housing crisis. We cannot fix the housing crisis. We can help, but we can't fix it. We can't fix the root of homelessness. But we have a needy city. We have needy people in our city that we can directly help. I mean, the food giveaway at the restoration, the restoration thing on Saturday morning is a great example. And when COVID was in, there were other food banks giving out food. So maybe bring something like that back.
Well, Arms of Hope is open every week as well, down in the south end on Wingfield. Patrick Hope, he does a huge feeding every single week. The Haitian on South Dixie Highway at 8th Avenue, they do a huge one.
Yeah. So, and I believe in direct help. I mean, if a kid doesn't have a pair of shoes, you buy a pair of shoes, you change his life. Simple as that.
This is all well, but to me, it illustrates, it's a little frustrating, I have to say, a little frustrating that there's this impression that we'll talk about the needy or the have-nots or things in a way that I do not feel comfortable with. These are people, and it's not just homeless people. It's not just people at the very bottom of the social, the economic situation. The calls that I get, the contact that I get, I don't know what other people are getting, but is people, with jobs, people with that they are struggling with the rent. When somebody raises the rent $300, $600, that's a big deal. And a couple of turkeys at Thanksgiving is wonderful and nice, and it's a great photo opportunity, but it doesn't fix any problems.
How does what you're
why would you
planning
have that
fix the
day?
homeless problem? Yeah,
That
really.
wasn't cool.
That was
That was
nasty.
disrespectful. This is not a photo opportunity. This is actually putting food in people's mouths.
Really.
Eating
I-
them. That's uncalled for.
Not addressing,
Because Mr. McVoy, let me finish. Mr. McVoy,
I still had the floor, I believe.
well, but we all let me just chime in though. And well, you had the floor to sort of denigrate what Sarah Malega just said. Minimize what she just said. What do you think we can do to solve the homeless problem?
I didn't
You-
say that.
Well,
RFP,
that's the whole point of this though.
to answer your question.
Go.
Thank you.
All right, and it's 9:40 and we're
Our-
spending a lot of time on this.
If you look at the RFP, it does not talk about the homeless. That's a possible secondary effect of it, because yes, it is reasonable to assume that if you raise people's rents too much, some of the people are going to wind up homeless. That is not the focus of it.
All right, I'm using homeless as a generic term, underprivileged. Let's use underserved.
I think this is exactly why we need the study, but this is why we have a commission of 5. And if there's enough support for it, we'll go forward with it. What I did was to put serious effort into trying to write and address exactly the questions that you had of what are we looking for in the study, and give the opportunity for some outside folks to give us information, including possible solutions. What are things that other places are doing that we might be able to adopt? I do not.
Ryan, I just want to ask you, said this, how could Chris share his ideas with us without violating the Sunshine Law? He said he had written things out.
That's a question. I have the same question.
Well, I just asked it.
Right, so in general, if a commissioner communicates with other commissioners, that's step 1 towards a violation. The violation occurs when a commissioner then replies back. So you then have a dialogue. So if you're going to communicate, you always want to put do not reply all. When I spoke to Carmen last night, we're also concerned that today you're going to be discussing it and it hadn't been noticed because the public can be on this call. So you could, simply say, distribute, at this point, since the public's aware of it, we're discussing it publicly. If you want to direct, Carmen to go ahead and distribute that to all the commissioners with a do not reply all, and please don't reply to each other, but you can certainly reply back to the manager. But to me, the heart of the question is, do you want to have this conversation about the RFP either at your October 18th meeting or the next one? And if you do, then Vice Mayor McVoy's comments would be as backup to that agenda item. So if
Right.
we had discussion on October 6th, so if you want to continue the discussion on the 18th, you could add an agenda item. Melissa, don't shoot me.
No, if it's not an emergency, you can't. Don't
Okay.
start. with that.
Well, the
So-
other option,
so-
if other
So
option,
then-
I can say, create
Okay.
a work session, because if this is a subject matter that could take more than 30 minutes of discussion.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We can create a work session. to
I think
talk
that's a
out
good
the
idea. This is a
ideas.
big issue.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had brought that up a few meetings ago.
did.
This deserves workshops. And now that we're out of budget, I think we all have some really good ideas. It's not putting down Commissioner Malega's idea. I've obviously been involved with large food drives and whatnot, and they're great, but I think we also need a companion. What can we do? You're right, Madam Mayor, that we're not going to solve this issue. No city in the history of humanity has ever solved this issue, but we better be prepared to step up and do our best to help those that want to help or can be helped in companion. Food
Sure.
drives are amazing. I can reach out to some people, Commissioner Malega, to see if they would be like H3, for example. But even when we were doing H3 with like Rodney Mayo and such, it kind of evolved out of a need. It has a really interesting history, but it was never looked at as this is a solution to a problem. It was looked at as we're going to do this as long as it was needed because of COVID and people not working. And then it evolved into a thing that was supposed to be a few weeks into something that is still going on right now. So there's definitely a lot to discuss, and I would be totally for a workshop.
Okay, let's do a workshop.
And, I'm fine with the workshop. I think that's fine. Sort of my thinking, and I guess it's used to being, in an institution where we circulated ideas around and assumed that people would have edits and make improvements to them or comments or whatever. And my thinking was just make it available to everybody if through the city manager, and if anybody had edits or comments, send them back to the city manager, and then we speed up the discussion and see, can we get to something that we all think is pretty
Well, that
reasonable.
would be in a workshop. Mr. Sarcivia, would, for example, Mr. McVoy's notes, could we make them available to the public?
Sure.
You could, right. And again, the collegiality is something you want to get to without violating the Sunshine Law. That's always the line you're trying to walk. So if you're going to have a workshop on it, Vice Mayor McVoy's thoughts, comments could be.
Anybody's.
Or anybody's. And what I'd ask all of you to think about is, that RFP language was drafted with the idea of the housing crisis ordinance / lawsuit that would come, because there was a lot of language about grave crisis and emergencies and those kind of things. So think about, do you still want to include that as an option when we get to the workshop?
Mhm.
Not for March of 23, obviously, perhaps for March of 24, or do you want to put that aside? Because that will probably drive up the cost of any study. But that's part of, I think, what the vice mayor is talking about is how do we define what it is that you want? What do you want the study? Because obviously, the broader you make the study, the more expensive it's going to be.
Okay.
I like the idea of a workshop.
Ms. Davis, do you have your hand up? You do have your hand up.
I do.
Okay.
I guess
Okay.
I had some thoughts when I was hearing about this discussion. I guess we'll talk more in detail in a work session.
Okay,
But I know, I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm
okay,
sorry.
let's set this aside then until we get a workshop.
That's
'cause
fine, that's
We're
fine,
still talking
absolutely.
about it after we decided to have a workshop. We wasted a lot
Yes,
of time.
absolutely.
Okay, I'm sure we're all getting huge pushback on the electric bills, crazy, huge pushback on the electric bills. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just saying, is everybody getting the same emails and phone calls and X that, it's,
Yeah.
talk about, I'm not saying that we should, we voted on it because we're told that that's a necessity, and I think we're reviewing it quarterly. Perhaps we could review it every other month or something, because we're talking about housing costs, electricity is obviously a basic one. I'd like to, if there's any, and this is for, Mr. Liberty, is there anything that we can do to ease up on this a little bit? Because it's really hurting people.
Yeah,
If I-
Madam Mayor. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Vice Mayor. Go ahead.
If I might comment on it, yes, I'm seeing the same thing, a lot of concern about it, and you're completely correct that the concern about rents and the concern about electric at the same time and various other things that have raised prices are all weighing on people. On their electric utility, on the rate, I think Ed would probably tell us there's not very much we can do at this point, because he needs to pay an $11 million higher bill that we got because of the increase in natural gas, and he's got to pay
Which is
that.
why we did it in the first place, right?
Right, exactly. Now, I worked with, one of the things we said at the time that we voted, let's give the community very concrete tools of, if you want to, we're raising the rate on the fuel cost by about 20%. Your bill will go up. There's nothing we can do to avoid that. However, in terms of raising the rate, we need to pay OUC for the juice that they send us. We have no option on that. However, if residents choose that they want to reduce their usage as a way to try and reduce their bill, I asked at the time that we give them, before the rate increase come out, give them concrete information and tools to do that. Not things like, hey, you can apply for a loan and modify your house. That's great, but that's not something that has an immediate turnaround. We should do those, and I'm glad to see the self inserts into the bill. But I was looking for, and I spent some time with the city manager on that yesterday, gave some concrete suggestions of, let's put more information out explaining why it was raised, giving them some implications, what your bill would be at various usages, help people understand where they're sitting, what the effect of the rate increase, what the effect of usage, and tools to do that. So I'm working with her on that,
It's a good idea.
that we would do that before the September 1 increase, but
We're all busy. And it's going to be with us for a while, I think. So I think that's a good idea. Carmen, you can do that? Working with Mr. Liberty?
Oh, yes, we're already doing that. And
Okay.
and if I can add, while we're here and on this public forum, other tools that we offer to our customers, we'll do free conservation audits, utility bill estimators, and also budget billing. So there are other type of
Mhm.
mechanisms that customers can take advantage of, that we can assist them with how to manage their usage and hopefully help in the cost of their utility bills.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, information is helpful. I mean, it's, you know, people are hurting. I pay 4 electric bills.
Absolutely.
Um,
Commissioner
Okay.
Diaz's hand up is up.
oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Diaz.
Yeah, I mean, second all those comments, but I'm pretty sure when we did vote for it, didn't we at least talk about, I'm not sure if we made the policy change, but we did talk about taking a higher resolution look at the price changes monthly to see. so that we
Quarterly.
could-
Yes.
Quarter,
Quarterly.
well, it was quarterly, but I'm pretty sure we had a conversation about doing a monthly check already.
You
so that
did.
We
You
can
did.
be quick about it, yeah.
Right, and Mr. Liberty has been looking at it monthly, and I
Okay.
believe he'll bring some information back with you to you at the October meeting.
Great. Anybody else have anything else? Any staff have anything?
I have 2 very quick and easy things, hopefully.
Go ahead, quick and easy. We love them.
So, yeah, so Sunday we did our maintenance of Jewel Steinhardt Cove post Ian. And obviously I park at the beach, and looking at how the palms were pruned, it's pretty embarrassing. They're very improperly pruned. I'm not gonna say what people say they look like when you prune them in that way. But also for storm protection, I mean, there's loads of, proof out there that show when you overly prune things like sable palms, they're actually more susceptible to storm damage than if you keep that nice round shape that they're supposed to have. I know I've talked to members of our tree board that are pretty upset about it, and I think we really have to do better. And if it involves codifying some sort of protection or whatever you want to call it, I think we should start looking into that, because we need to really lead by example. And I was really thinking about this even before that, because as we're looking at Fifth and Federal, I was meeting with Dave and Michael and stuff, and we're coming up with a plan. And I really came to realize that as a city, at least on our properties, we need to lead by example, and we need to pull all our Category 1 invasives. We need to protect what's there, and we need to lead by example, put it into our own policies, whatever it may be, so that doesn't happen again, because it looks bad. It's not good
Yeah.
for the trees.
I've gotten
Another
this,
one,
yeah.
yeah,
feedback.
and another one too that I would love to protect are, for example, this conversation comes up a lot, and then when I explain to people the reason why, they come away with an appreciation. That's our red mangroves, our planters on Bryant Park. There's a lot of questions about why don't we hedge them, and I can tell you, that project was specifically designed with large swath of windows, right? That first planter on the south end by the playground is 150 feet long. And then there's even more space in between the next planter. So there's it's specifically designed to maintain a view, but hedging mangroves should be off the table, because that destroys the habitat quality. It destroys their ability to pull carbon out of the atmosphere, which is pretty much the primary reason why they're there. And essentially the short version, the easy way to explain it, when you hedge them, they grow too thick and birds aren't going to be using them like they do now. So I would love like some sort of protection, whether it's in our own maintenance policy or whatever we have, that points out that we will, maintain things like our red mangroves in their natural state, as natural as can be, and do what's right to protect them.
Yeah, along those same lines, the row of hedges that was planted by the golf course as you come over the bridge, I was grateful to see them, but they were just trimmed fairly aggressively. And I mean, I'm hoping they'll come back thicker. But and I get probably from most of the same people, Ronaldo, that you hear from about the, very tree, growth minded people. And yeah, I agree with you completely about that. So
I think it's been a long-standing problem. It's been a problem, as Lauren alluded to it, at the beach. We probably need to, if it's not in a policies and procedures manual, it should be in our code somewhere or other of what our goals are for management of city property in terms of vegetation.
right.
Because completely agree with Commissioner Diaz that leading by example is pretty important for the city.
Okay, so
Madam Mayor, Commissioner Maliga's hand is raised.
please, we have 5 minutes.
I just wanted to circle back and, we took the time to, carefully choose who sits on our advisory board. And I would like to start getting quarterly updates from those advisory boards, what they're meeting on, what they're looking over. Because we haven't heard from the rec board, like you just mentioned, the tree board, Mr. Diaz. And I would, they're there to advise us. So I would,
Good idea.
it'd be something if we could at least get a quarterly email update, not where they have to present to us, but at least email the entire commission. Here's the policies we've looked at, here's the things we've talked about. I just would like some more direct connection with myself, especially, I'm not going to speak for everybody else, but I just
Good
would like
idea.
that they're working on.
Well,
and
good
how
idea.
they help us navigate the waters that need to be navigated.
Or maybe they could just quarterly come up and give us a 5-minute rundown at a commission meeting, because then that would be public.
I think, yeah, I like that. I do have 2 short items if we have a
Well-
moment.
Okay, we have 4 minutes.
Okay, very quickly, I'd like to do 2 proclamations. One of them doesn't need to be immediate at all, but I'd like approval for it. The other one is more time sensitive, and that is as part of the Hispanic Heritage Month, I'd specifically like to have a proclamation, which I'll write, for the 2 Guatemalan Mayan organizations that are very active in our community in keeping the Guatemalan Mayan culture active, and that is the Maya Ikbalam organization and the Guatemalan Maya Center. So I'd like to add those to the upcoming meeting, the 18th. It'll be just off the end of the Hispanic Heritage Month, but I'd really like to get that in. So I'll write those up if that's okay with everybody.
How many? Okay, we've
And
got a couple now. Let's just look at the agenda. Oh, wait, there are. Madam Clerk, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 right now. Mac Bernard is gonna come up.
those, are you counting presentations?
That's
or
a presentation. Okay, proclamation, 4 proclamations. Ms. Clerk, do you know if someone's coming for Florida City Government Week for that one?
No,
Okay,
no, I don't. I can contact the Florida League of Cities, but that's just one we do every year.
okay, breast cancer, are they coming?
I'll have to check with Sylvina.
Okay, Red Ribbon Week, which is,
I'll also have to check with Sylvina.
I know that domestic awareness, it should be domestic abuse awareness, not just domestic awareness. Domestic abuse, it's on the agenda, it says domestic awareness.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, Domestic, we're all
that.
aware of domestic. And I know at least 3 people are coming for that one.
That's
Yeah.
very,
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I don't think anyone's coming for E, F, and G for the other proclamation.
Yeah, all right, so then, sure,
okay, thank you for
I
your
have no objection to it.
The other one that I'll just mention, but it's not urgent, is I was approached by a organization, spiritual organization that I didn't previously have any connection to, but they work worldwide and they are very concerned about soil protection. And so I joined a group that did a walk for awareness. They work with the UN, they work with the French, they work with various countries to try to raise awareness about protecting soils for both climate reasons, but especially food production. And they have asked for a proclamation, which I wrote up a while ago. I'd like to add that one to an upcoming meeting and just get some general approval of that. It
It's a
doesn't,
religious group?
what's that?
It's a
It's a-
religious?
It's a spiritual group that has
Well-
the importance of soils and protection of soils and works to raise awareness of that. And they've
What's-
got proclamations. I believe they're called Isha.
Well, maybe we could have some more information about that. Just find
Sure.
out. All right, so we're gonna add the one about the Guatemalan stuff to this agenda. Thank you for bringing it up before the night of the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
It's
soil
10
one sounds really interesting. I guess that's the the good thing about having a literal soil scientist on our commission, is because I've obviously very environmentally involved and had never heard of that, but that sounds really interesting. Looking forward to that. Thank you.
Yeah. Pretty cool. It is for a spiritual organization to take up a concrete topic like that, but he's been working to raise awareness on.
Let's just find out the basis of their spirituality before we go adopting a proclamation. That's all I'm thinking about.
Madam
Um,
Mayor, I have to run. My next
Okay, we
one-
all do. It's 10 o'clock. Okay, well, have a great day, everybody. Carmen, I'll see you in a little while. And have a safe week and good weekend. And the Witches Dance is coming along. I've got to talk to Lauren about getting it on her agenda for the 28th. And it's a wild group and it's great. So thank you very much, everybody.